birthday went by. I'm sorry, it would be a missed opportunity.
The title, Grace and Boldness, reflects two qualities that frequently coexist in this work. Grace, in how writers hold their histories, their families, and themselves, and boldness is in the choice to speak openly, to take risks, and to claim space for stories that are too often marginalized or misunderstood. Our first author today is Daisy Plaza, the author of I Did It for Her.
I want to start by saying thank you to Vilma for having me be a part of this historical moment, and also being side by side with some amazing and powerful women, and Latina at that. Here's turning pages from trauma to resilience. My story started off with just a thought. I then met a young girl named Erica that dated my son, Shamar. We would sit and talk for hours about our life, the things we had been through, and the dreams we had and wanted to accomplish. She would then tell me, you have to tell your story.
She always used to say, you have to tell your story. I didn't know she was going to pass away. And it took me about 2 years, as I stated earlier, for me to realize that I had to keep my promise. And I did it. I really did it for her. And then I decided later, or realized, it wasn't just for her. It was for me and for other women. And that's how I came up with the title. It really is behind Erica. And she's the one that helped me with my outline, actually, before passing. And I actually took those outlines and then created a story.
And it's proof that there's people that come to our life to serve a purpose. And Erica was definitely
Absolutely.
there to serve a purpose.
Absolutely.
How do you balance honoring your truth while also being mindful of the impact on readers who might be triggered by the details?
It was a trigger for me, so I understand that. And I think that while I was writing, that's where I decided to put grace, because you have to tell the story, I think, with the understanding of people are going to read this, but I also had to be authentically me, and I wanted to tell the truth in my story, but wanting them to realize that there are so many of us that have similar stories or experiences, but I wanted to show them that there is another side. Like, we all can make it. We can choose a different type of life. So I think keeping that in mind was more even at that moment, not only for the readers, but also for myself, because I will say those triggers opened up a lot of wounds. I cried, I became angry, but then it healed me. So I'm hoping that when readers read it with the understanding, even if there's triggers, that it can also help them heal, because there is another side to it, and that's happiness and peace, if you choose it.
I heard an interview that was done to you, and you said you wanted a reaction from people. That's the reaction you wanted. For anyone listening who might be experiencing domestic violence, what message would you share with them, or what resources would you recommend?
Make sure that you find someone that you can trust. Make sure that you go to the domestic line is open 24 hours a day that you can call. They can help you with shelters for you and your children. I will say it is not an easy process, and I understand that, but know that the resources are out there. That's something I never knew. So I do encourage that. Make sure that you not only call the number, but have a backup plan for you and your children, because without that, you will not be able to go forward. Make sure you find someone, even if it's not a family, maybe a friend. Make sure you tell them everything, just in case something happens. Because if you read my book, something happens to an individual that I know, and she ends up murdered. So I want you to understand that this can go left really quick. So make sure you choose yourself and that you choose a different life. no matter what it takes.
I am an author, and I am resilient. And remember, you are the narrator to your own story, and we have the power to make a change. So let's do that. Thank you.
Our next author brings a perspective shaped not only by personal narrative, but by decades of community leadership and advocacy. Jacquelyn Santiago is a nationally recognized leader in youth advocacy and violence prevention. She is the CEO of Compass Youth Collaborative, where she has spent more than 2 decades working alongside young people and families to disrupt cycles of violence and create pathways towards safety, opportunity, and healing.
Thank you, everyone. I have to say, I've never been in an academic space that started with the word hueva. So I'm very excited. Thank you, Dr. Caban, because I do believe in giving you respect for all that you have worked for. And Casa de Maria Publisher, thank you for allowing me to tell my story today. When I stood in front of the mural, painted in Hartford's Puerto Rican neighborhood, my own face rising above Park Street, I felt something that I could not immediately name. Pride, disbelief, fear, healing. In that moment, I was no longer the little girl hiding behind the door frame, covering her ears to block a world that told her that she didn't belong. I could still hear the words passed down through generations. Las niñas bonitas se ven mejor calladitas. Pretty girls look better when they stay quiet. Those words followed me for years, into classrooms, into boardrooms, into moments where I questioned my own worth.
I noticed that you talked a lot about self-love, and I think that's where everything starts, right?
So self-love is a really important part of my theme because for so long I was hiding the truth. I was hiding the fact that I didn't feel good about myself. I suffered abuse at the hands of someone very close to our family, and I did not reveal that till I was 25 years old. And as I began to do this work, I was hiding in the work, I was working harder, I was doing all these things, but there was always something that kept pushing me back, and it was because I wasn't being authentic. I was hiding a part of me that others really could feel, and I was seeing myself traumatized in different ways, but I didn't know where to name it. And it wasn't until I had an experience with a girl who shared something really deeply personal with me and very painful, and she said, "Do you really understand?" And I said, "Yeah, I actually do really understand." And it was the first time that I had revealed it. And from then on, I just kept finding myself in spaces where people felt comfortable sharing with me, and I knew it wasn't a mistake. I knew that God had been calling me to share something and pushing me in a way that I wasn't comfortable with until this moment. And now I'm able to share it because it's helping little girls that had the same experience as me. But it was really hard to get there, really hard.
You mentioned a journey of healing while writing your book. What was that process like for you, both writing the book and sharing it with the world?
The process was a difficult one. I had to allow myself to acknowledge it, because you go throughout life denying it so much that you often think about, is it really as bad as I thought it was? Is it exactly how I remembered it? And so when I started putting ink on paper, I started to really feel it. I knew it was deeper than anything that had ever happened in my life, and I knew that the thread followed me into every aspect of my life. And so I started crying as I was writing, and I needed to seek therapy, and I needed to go and get some support while I was writing this book. So it took me about a year to finally do it, but when I revealed it, it was a healed Jackie that came out. So that was a year in the making, but I think it was my whole life in the making. You know, in reality, it was me acknowledging all of these things and coming to grips with it was okay to share my story and not be ashamed of it.
That's so important, and I think that's where grace and boldness comes out. And I always say to people, like, have grace with yourself. Give yourself grace. You know, be patient with yourself, with your process, because sometimes your process looks like you're breaking down, you're in pieces, but that's part of it. And I related so much when you talked today in today's event. What do you hope readers take away from your story, especially those who may be going through similar challenges?
I really am speaking to little girls everywhere, whether you're in Hartford or Lawrence or Puerto Rico or in any dark corner when you feel like there's no room to go. There's life after this situation, and it actually gets better. You're not broken. You're not alone. You are your ancestors' most amazing dream come true. And so you just have to get over that moment of timidness, that pain, and know that there is a whole beautiful life waiting for you once you overcome.
And where can people find you and find your book and buy your book?
Becoming Her is on Amazon, so you can find it there. But you could also look me up on all social media platforms. I have Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok. So just look me up, Jacquelyn Santiago.
Ya saben. Y muchas gracias y mucho éxito en tu libro y en tu carrera.
Muchas gracias, soy muy agradecida por el tiempo.
Oye, y puedes ver el mural que está pintado en Hartford, en la Park Street.
En la Park Street, y hay uno en la Washington Street también.
¿De dónde? ¿Por qué te pintaron allá?
Eso fue una sorpresa para mí. Ellos hicieron un concurso donde eligieron, la gente votaron y me eligieron a mí.
Bueno, por algo fue. Así que muchas felicidades y muchas gracias por exponer tu historia, ¿no? Y inspirarnos a todos.
Gracias.
A ti.
Your voice is sacred. Your story holds power. And healing begins the moment that you decide that you will no longer remain silent. To every young girl who has ever felt unworthy. To every woman learning to love herself back to life. To every community still fighting to be seen, we're not here to be quiet. We're here to heal. We are here to rise. We are here to become. Because when one woman finds her voice, she gives generations permission to rise. Nuestra voz y historia es poder. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Jacquelyn, for grounding us in the connection between storytelling, leadership, and responsibility to community. Looks like Hartford has it all. You represent your city with so much grace. Our final author this afternoon brings us into a space where personal narrative, advocacy, and stewardship meet. Dr. Vilma Caban is an author, humanitarian, researcher, and educator. She is the author of The Heart of an Advocate, a memoir that reflects on lived experience, social responsibility, and the ethical power of testimony. On a personal note, I'd like to add that Vilma's my college best friend, and this September we're coming up on 39 years of friendship.
Wow.
She is the Vilma to my Louise. For those of you who know that movie, she is my ride or die, and she made me comadre to her amazing son, Chris. And Vilma's the friend that I can't lose because she knows more about me than my husband. But most importantly, she has been a beacon of light and inspiration. Vilma, I'm honored to call you hermana amiga.
As founder and CEO of Casa de Maria Publisher. That has been a dream in the making for the last, I would say, 3 years. but the last 2 years really full throttle. This event was fully booked in less than 24 hours. Why? Because you believe in the power of story. Because when we talk about the power of story in social justice, we're not speaking in abstraction. We're speaking in a space that has witnessed people grappling with injustice and asking what their role should be in addressing it. We also gather here during Women's History Month, a time set aside to remember the women whose courage reshaped public life, often long before their voices were welcomed in the historical record. Many of those women did not set out to make history. They set out to tell the truth about conditions that they were living in. And there's a well-known phrase, which I live all the time, that well-behaved women seldom make history. Can I get a... What is it? Clock it? Yes, we are making history. And the point of that statement is that progress rarely begins with comfort. You gotta get uncomfortable. It begins with someone being willing to speak what has not yet been acknowledged. Because story also carries responsibility. And this is where grace and boldness meet.
Because for me, writing, when you resist, you probably hear resist and persist. You have to keep at it. And the fact that you haven't folded and that you haven't decided to stay quiet and not share your story is that you are resisting. You're resisting the silencing habit that creeps in sometimes because we're conditioned, especially as young women, to feel like we can't take up too much space. So writing is resistance because it also, like I mentioned in my keynote address today, that we are holding space and holding a record. Before many policies, before anything is created, many times it becomes one or two narratives that are captured, that are provocative enough to get attention, to compel people to do something about it. So I think that's where I believe that writing is resistance, because you have decided to capture it and put it down on paper.
It is the care taken to protect the dignity of the storyteller, the family, the community, and the culture that holds that story. And for Latina writers, grace and boldness are not opposing forces. They are learned together. And at Casa de Maria Publisher, we believe in the power of symbols. We see it as a language. And together, that beautiful flor de maga and mango tree, they tell a fuller story. One that speaks about immediacy and presence, and the other about endurance and inheritance. And between them is the beautiful work of storytelling and social justice, to honor what is blooming now and safeguarding what has to be preserved. Stories carry memory. They carry it forward across generations. And they connect personal experience to collective understanding. They help people locate themselves within that beautiful longer arc of struggle, resilience, and possibility. Stories prepare a future. It creates pathways for those who are going to come next. It reminds us that what we build today has to be strong enough to hold voices that we have not heard yet. Mm-hmm. And some stories were carried here, and there are others still waiting. But we are waiting for care, waiting for a place to land. And that brings us to the moment of our public commitment for Casa de Maria Publisher. This is our official launch. We are coming into public life in 2026.
you also mentioned that you were the voice for those people that were not heard.
Our publishing house was designed for marginalized writers and underrepresented writers. All the isms, all the classist situations, for example, many times, especially academic writing, could be viewed as kind of like the ivory tower. It belongs to a select few of academics. And my intention is to break wide open those barriers. It doesn't matter what degree you have, if you have a degree. We are going to celebrate in September one of the poets who was discovered, and she's proud, a Brooklyn-born writer who with her GED was published by one of the top 5 publishing houses. So I want to be able to get away from the isms, and the classism is sadly a big part of the problem. We want to make sure that just because your story doesn't follow the traditional role, it still requires space. And sadly, another thing too is that sometimes they will publish you, but it's because it's probably the most traumatic, heart-wrenching story. But maybe you don't want to write about trauma. Maybe you want to write about happy joy, moments in your life to celebrate family traditions. Maybe you want to write about nature. Maybe you want to write about anything that you think someone else has in common. So to be honest with you, I really just want to break wide open all the barriers that get in the way. People feel they're not qualified enough. Perhaps they feel, well, my story, I don't have enough of a story. Well, maybe you do have just enough, the one that you're ready to publish. And we have a wonderful anthology series for Casa de Maria Anthology. You could submit, and we have different volumes and publish. We're going to have one coming out in the fall. Submit your writing. Watch one of our free writing webinars. Maybe that'll get you inspired. If it's the first writing piece you wrote, send it. Email it to us, and we will work with you to get it published. You deserve to have space in our anthology and to take up space as a writer. Something in this stage of my life that promise that I made to my mom was about building that house and also building the publishing house. But my goal is to serve as a link, coming to the mainland and encouraging writers to come to Puerto Rico, to have the writing retreats, to be in that space, to be able to also break wide open who is publishing. We have to embrace multilingualism. We had one young woman who talked about she's Greek, so then you write in your Greek language and you submit to our anthology. And if it means we translate it after you submit your piece, that's fine too. But everyone needs to have their space taken up. And so going back to Puerto Rico was reclaiming my identity as well. Always feeling that, yo soy de allá, meaning that I was not born in Puerto Rico. But, my goal is to be from both, aquí y allá. And I want to be a bridge that writers traverse and go back and forth to Puerto Rico to enjoy that experience.
What do people need to be able to be part of the retreats? Where can they get more information?
You can certainly go to casademariapublisher.com and look at our programs. We have not only retreats, not everyone can, be ready to go to a retreat, but what we want to do is break wide open barriers. We have writing webinars that are free. We have subscription-based webinars as well as our podcasts. Listen to our podcast. If there's something from that podcast that inspired you, submit for the anthology. If you're ready and it just plants another seed for you to write your piece, then do so. But the writing retreats, you could also check online. We have a 3-day amazing retreat where we travel to different parts of Puerto Rico, and you get to stay at La Casa de Maria. And day 2, you get to have a writer's water retreat where Captain Caban, that's me, will take you to different parts of the bay in Fajardo, and we get to ride on the boat. And we get to get writing classes at the Marina Business Center, as well as have the opportunity to stay at the Marina overnight with a view of the bay and continue writing into the night. So that is the goal. That's day 2. And day 3, we go to El Yunque, and we go to the education center there, and then cap it with a final visit to Casa de Maria and get ready to just wrap and tie that bow so that if you are ready to publish much later or work on your manuscript, you feel more equipped to do that.
That sounds very exciting and very inspiring, because if you're there with everybody, everybody's in the mood, they concentrate, they start writing, it flows, y sale solito, ¿no?
Yes. And the groups are manageable, just 2 writers, 2 or 3 writers, maybe from one other writer from the island, because it's about giving you the quality focus that you need. No one's competing for voices as writers there.
Excellent. How do you see your role as a publisher shaping the future of Latina literature?
Well, to create literacy, that's my goal. We want to be able to have space where people who didn't view themselves as a writer can become a writer. You're reading other people's writing, so that beautiful balance of reading and writing is about promoting literacy in our communities, as well as really capturing those stories and holding space on a bookshelf, because our stories are worth being told. But not only being told and published, but also promoted. So working with local publishing houses, many times, come to our website, check out what are the options between self-publishing and publishing with us. And we're going to help you get into those libraries, into those bookshelves, in bookstores, and trying to find ways to, sadly, the way the world deems publishing, you need to be legitimized. But our goal here is to be creating a space for you to be and hold it. So join us at casademariapublisher.com and just explore, peruse, and see what captures you. Perhaps you're writing your next novel or collection of poetry, or your cookbook. Thank you.
Solo de atreverse. Just put it out there. It doesn't matter. Some people might like it, other people might love it. Yes. You might inspire some other people as well. Well, Vilma, thank you so much.
Such a pleasure. Thanks for having me today.
Same. Thank you for the invitation y mucho éxito en tu podcast, que oye, los invito a escucharla. Yo escuché el primer episodio and I'm hooked. It's very Puerto Rican also. It feels very Puerto Rican.
You're gonna hear the cookies.
Yeah.
And Casa de Maria carries my mother's name. But even more than that, it carries what Mommy modeled: commitment, sacrificio, rootedness, and a vision that extended far beyond survival. So when I think about what I hope readers carry forward from my work, it's this: that their story is not small, that even the quiet parts matter, that resilience is not something we perform, but it is something we inherit and we pass it on. And I hope writers carry forward the belief that they do not have to navigate this writing journey alone, because grace and boldness are not opposites. It's about telling the truth and how we carry it. And so my writing journey began as a girl, protecting a fragile plant, and it continues today as a promise to protect the stories of others until they are ready to be held in the world. And yes, I'm still finishing what she began. Here's the before and after. And that is a picture of Mommy working as a seamstress. I know Mommy is sitting very proudly at her machine in heaven, looking down and seeing Vilmita toil to make 2 houses: La Casa de Maria and La Casa de Maria Publishing House. Please join me in welcoming Jill Interlandi.
I would like to start by saying that I am incredibly honored to even have been asked to be here. This was just such a massive event, and to be honest, a massive surprise when I first met Vilma and told me about this event, and I was like, oh yeah, okay, like that sounds amazing. Oh, for sure, I'll have the coffee there. And she's like, no, I want you to tell your story. And I was like, okay. Okay, all right. So, bear with me because just the short 2 years we've actually been open has been a roller coaster. So, kind of from the very beginning, I never knew exactly what I wanted to do with my life. I feel like, as a lot of people, college was never really my thing. I tried numerous career paths. I ended up finding a love in bartending. And working in the bar industry for nearly 12 years, I had a clearer picture of what I wanted to do, or more so what I wanted to create. The local hub of coffee shops. And I know it sounds a bit out there, but bear with me. Let me explain. So working at the pub, I witnessed moments of celebrations, like baby showers, graduations. There was moments of sorrow, where families reminisced over a beverage and a loved one's funeral. And there was just so many more endless memories and laughter. Into a newer apartment building in Hartford, I finally saw it. My space. There was a giant cement room that had my name written all over it. It was part of the apartment building. My vision in my head danced around as I already envisioned decor down to a T. I would even get to showcase my love for history and my culture through the furniture and this large feature wall that I had dreamt about doing. There was photos of Hartford that I would put, there was news articles. I had a vision, and I was determined to make this vision come to life. I even wanted to showcase just my family's love for coffee, with my abuelo's photo, plucking the cherries from his coffee trees. There was, personally, just another approval I needed, and that was from my dad. I'm known to be a bit impulsive and sporadic, we shall say. And no one knew this more than my dad. I've had quite the outrageous ideas in the past, and he got a lot of comedic relief from them. After seeing the space, a smile spread across his face. I knew this wasn't just another crazy idea. It was a crazy idea that would work. We made a plan together to work alongside my now husband and build my dream. Just from the paint to the floor to the counter, everything ourselves. And I would love to say that the rest is history, right? That would be a very short story and very boring and unrealistic for a small business. Sadly, my father passed suddenly within 2 weeks of me actually signing the lease. My world was crushed. Even surrounded by my family, I had just never felt so alone and unsure of myself. What was a joyous time now had me questioning just everything. I was putting everything I had into this new venture, and now all of my insecurities were just building up. But thankfully, my mom, my stepdad, my husband's encouragement helped me just push forward, and now this feature wall was getting a new personal touch, my dad. I was finally seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. Little did I know, the uphill battle was nowhere near the end. I was brushed to the side. I was mocked when dealing with city officials regarding parking, permits, and more. I had electricians and plumbers roll their eyes and refuse to acknowledge me when going over plans. I was even overcharged, and I had subs no-show and ignore my calls unless my husband intervened. And no, their paychecks were not coming from him. They were coming from me. Reality had hit that even with all the internet feeds preaching of women empowerment and change, this was still very much a man's world. The truth is, I've cried, clearly, more times than I can even count. I wanted to quit, I felt beyond defeated and stressed, and no, it does not stop. I've even had my ethnicity questioned because my features didn't match what a Puerto Rican person should look like. Luckily, I come from a long line of extremely amazing, determined, and strong Hispanic women. From my cousins, to my tias, my mom, my abuela, stubbornness just runs through our veins, and quitting is not an option. So after a year of construction and fighting through the city process, the 2 years of officially being open, I finally found my community. I am now able to see my cafe have the impact that I've dreamed, from business meetings to students studying for their finals. We've hosted fundraisers, food drives, and I've even seen my staff, who were initially very guarded and have come from very rough situations, have now blossomed into confident, intelligent young women who now consider the cafe their safety and their family. I've come to welcome my own baby girl into this world, and the love and support from my cafe family is more than I could have imagined. I know many of you can relate to my story in a way, especially my fellow business owners, and I hope my daughter, young Latina women, and women in general aren't afraid to dream, to take that leap, or feed into that crazy idea. Because regardless of your background or experience, You can create something so beautiful. I just want to thank you again for having me and just allowing me to be part of this amazing, amazing event.
Thank you. Thank you. Can we give a
As I watch all of you come in, it really was magical to see everybody at my table and to share those things, the joy, the memories, and people recognizing the dishes that my mom and my mom didn't make, but my grandmothers made with me. And when I think about where my story with food begins, it doesn't really start as a business plan or a certification. Empezó en la cocina de mis abuelitas, my grandmother's kitchen. Those kitchens were full of warmth, laughter, music, and food made with love. They were places where everyone was welcome and always nourished, right? There was no judgment in your abuelita's kitchens. As a Latina, those kitchens taught me that food isn't just fuel, it's culture. It was something to share. I learned how meals brought families together, how recipes carried history. By the way, I'm the only one in the family who has all the family history recipes, so everybody comes to me. And how nourishment extended far beyond what was on the plate. Cooking gave me a sense of belonging and identity. As I grew older, that love for food followed me into the professional world. I cooked alongside chefs in restaurant kitchens. I met one of my closest friends in the back. We worked at a restaurant together. I had a burger I created. It was featured on the news and for like Burger Month from Corey's Ketchup and Mustard. It was really fun. I spent years learning food was not only a tradition, but it was a craft, and it was how you could share your creativity.
So, de todas, you are my favorite person to interview tonight because I am so grateful to have met you.
Thank you.
I would say my life changed after I met you.
Stop it right now, Zulino. Your life was already on a beautiful path.
But I met so much wonderful people through you, and I'm so thankful for that. Now, I do want to highlight what you do in your business, and for people to get to know you more and know where to follow you.
Okay.
So tell us a little bit about what is it that you do with your food business? What is it that the message that you're trying to give?
Because I'm building a legacy. That's really what I feel. I'm building a legacy. I want to see people live the happy belly lifestyle as I do, and I really embody it now. And what does that mean? When people they're like, that makes me laugh. And I was like, exactly, that's what I want, right? Because I want people to be happy when they're eating again and to find that relationship with food. I want them to be able to recreate the feeling that they felt when their abuelita made them a little bowl of, sopita or the little sandwichitos, like only my abuelita made those sandwichitos. And that's what I was hearing at the table, right? Everybody's like, oh, polvorones, I haven't had them in forever. And one lady was saying, I've never made these sandwichitos for my children. They don't even know what it is. So it's like bringing traditional dishes right back. And that's what Happy Belly LLC really is about. Is I'm a food consultant and I cook, but I also am a guide. I'm a guide to getting you back to the basics and what does it really mean to be joyful and eating, right? And I think that we in a society where we don't eat at the tables anymore, a lot of our abuelitas are gone, so we don't have those traditions, and I'm bringing it back. I'm bringing it back to the basics, back to what can we do to get you back to feeling joyful again? And then the rest really falls into place because everything I made was very healthy. It doesn't have to be greasy foods. It doesn't have to be fast food. You can have really good food just by knowing little tweaks, little basic things here and giving yourself the grace, right? Grace and boldness is what we were talking about today. And bring you back to that feeling and that happiness and that fullness. So I love to do cooking education, food education, give you strategies, especially if we have, children that right now we have a lot of children with food aversions. And I don't call it picky, I call it selective eating because I'm an abuelita, I am. So I'm an abuelita, so I have grandchildren and I'm a mom of four boys, all adults, but then I have a very selective eating husband. He has a very specific palate. And what I do with that is that I take all of those things that I have learned and I bring it to my clients and people that I meet, and I'm like, hey, if you're struggling with this, what are strategies that you could do to mitigate that or to give yourself grace and to take the guilt out? And people don't realize is that when you hold on to stress and you eat with guilt, you're actually holding on to cortisol, which is belly fat. So when you eat, just a little tidbit, I do have a little bit of a background. I'm not a nutritionist, but I do know, right? And ask me why I know, because I just know from my own experience. But eating angrily, you're not going to lose weight. And who are you beating up? You need to eat and be happy, right? And so that's what I do. And people can find me on, I do have my personal socials, so I'll just give you those for right now, because we are in the works. Happy Belly is it's very new. She's in her infancy phase. But I am an LLC and I am a food consultant. So don't look for the restaurant just yet, but one day. You can look me on my social media is Red Kruz, REDKRUZ, and that's on YouTube. I do have a YouTube channel. She's getting revamped, but I do have stuff on there. My Instagram and my Facebook, I post all my food and what I'm doing. And then also Happy Belly LLC does have an Instagram and a Facebook. So that's where you can find me.
Y lo más que me gusta de la comida de Red es que it's not only delicious and it tastes like abuelita, it's healthy. Because you said the sandwichitos de mezcla tenían pollo, ¿verdad?
Yes. Yeah, everybody, I really do cook. I don't fry. I even figured out how to make sorullitos in the air fryer crispy.
Qué rico.
So all of my recipes are very specific. I make acapurrias without frying. Very amazing. My porbono, everything that I try to make it as healthy as possible, So yeah, that's what I do, healthy, without guilt. Eating without guilt.
Qué rico.
Yeah.
I'm down.
So much for your
Thank you.
Yeah, we already talked about this. We have to do we talked about we have to have a dinner date with other people who are supposed to be cooking for me too.
Right.
We have a group of we're trying to do dinners, so.
Well, thank you so much.
It was a pleasure. I'm so happy I've met you.
Oh, sí, mamá.
And thank you for coming.